Hello, my name is Felicia. Glad to be here and to judge you this one.
Hi guys, my name is Peter and
All right, amazing. So the panel introduced themselves. We have the speakers introduce themselves. Pro, who's Pro? Okay. All right. Okay.
That is disgusting.
Sure, must be nice. You guys just extra papers, right? Kenyon? You need a paper. Uh, just say and just say and. All right, I'll just ask you. No, all right. Okay, still organizing this. All right. Ground rules. It's be respectful. Do not try to attack anyone. And by being respectful, doesn't necessarily mean be insulting, but like generally how you like take yourself as a giving your speech. Please be respectful. We've had cases where people are not respectful and people have reported them to equity. So yeah. So please be respectful. I can't stress that enough. Don't badger with POIs. Like 15 seconds, don't overspeak. It's not your speech. Yeah, overall, let's have a good last round, yeah. Let's not butcher the emotion. Other than that, you all know the ground rules. I will be timing here. I will just raise up to show you at 1 minute. Yeah, I'm not interrupting you, I'm not showing you that you have 1 minute left. And we'll give you extra 15 seconds after 8. So yeah. Okay.
Can the first speaker from the comment?
This house has a municipal government and stop pursuing multiple sons. This house has a municipal government who stop pursuing multiple sons.
Is that the solution?
This house is a municipal government will stop pursuing multiples.
Do you need a paper? I can give you one. All right. Fast food, we never know. Just give me a countdown and I'll start it.
Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. If the means to an end is not justified, then the end in of itself is not justified. If chasing these brothers only brings more discourse to us, then we feel like this stance does not work and we will have to avoid it, right? Moving on, first of all, a few bits of contextualization, right? So who are these sons that we actually talk about, right? They're the sons of a former drug lord. They took up his drug business after my father was captured and one of them was arrested, but later released. Now, what is this cartel in itself, right? This is basically the largest cartel in the world, right? It has a lot of power, it has a lot of influence, it even has a lot of good public image to defend people in the public rather than government, right? Moving on finally, we have to understand what is this Mexican government that we talk about, right? Here we talk about the law enforcers in Mexico, we talk about the policymakers, we talk about the government as a whole at the end of the day, right? And then how are we going to stop pursuing aside of family? We're going to put an end to the resources that go into looking for them, that troops are going to put an end to them, and we're going to stop raiding them in all instances. Moving on, right? What is the problem we see in this debate today, right? The problem that we're trying to solve in this debate today. This is basically the rampant drug supply in Mexico that is caused by the rampant drug cartels such as this one, which is the largest in the world. 3 arguments we're going to bring to you in this debate. We're going to show you A, the outcome of capturing and why it will be desirable. Secondly, we're going to show you the capacity to actually capture them and why we actually don't have it. And thirdly, we're going to show you which side actually has more utility and why it's actually a better stance for the Mexican government. To start off, right, let's look at the outcomes of the capturing of these brothers, right? When the first brother was captured, many people actually died during this capture. We have to understand that many lives were lost. Over 29 lives were lost at this particular point in time, right? And this revolt was continued until this brother was released at the end of the day, right? We have to understand that the influence that this brother had was a lot, and it led to the loss of many people's lives. It led to a lot of violence, and it led to a lot of loss of citizens' lives. And this is something that the Mexican government wouldn't want to do because its sole purpose is to look out for citizens and to care for its citizens. Now, since this was one brother, imagine if we captured or if we tried to capture all three brothers, what kind of harm will we get at the end of the day, right? This is some greater harm, right? Because he has 6 sons, and at the end of the day, we're trying to capture them, right? These 29 lives would multiply by 6 and go to like 2 million lives at the end of the day, right? The violence is going to increase, which is something that we would not want as a government. This is the first justification upon why the Mexican government wouldn't want to actually capture them or like pursue them. Take it.
Why are the sons fighting for their father? Why are they causing this for their father has been in prison?
Well, we have to understand that it's not the sons who cause the discourse, but it is rather the citizens who have been subscribing to this drug who are causing the discourse, or the other followers that he has at the end of the day, right? Moving on secondly, right, we have to understand the capacity that he would have, or like these different governments have to capture him at the end of the day, right? We feel like the resources that this Mexican government actually has are not enough to actually capture these guns. You have to understand that this being the largest drug cartel, it has a lot of influence, right? They have a lot of arms that they get from different beneficiaries, right? They get from different people who are in high positions, right? Who use this drug, right? They get it from different people who traffic, right? Now they have a lot of resources at the end of the day. Now we have to understand why is this then important, right? We have to notice that when the first brother was arrested, he was released at the end of the day, right? He was arrested because the government or like the police wanted to keep him in custody because of the crimes that he did. But this arrest was useless because at the end of the day, they decided to release him because they saw that the harms were worse. Or at the end of the day, the reason for the capture wasn't what? Fulfilled because drugs still stayed circulating and people still vote and nothing was done at the end of the day. Now, this is a major reason why we feel like they shouldn't actually work with this. But even if it actually works at the end of the day and we capture them, right, we still feel like it doesn't solve the problem with drug cartels at the end of the day, right? We still see that this problem with drug circulation still remains. Why is this so, right? When El Chapo was arrested, right, we still see that his sons took over his business, right? Now, when these sons are arrested, all of them, there's still someone who's next in line, right? It is a chain of people who actually like take over, like this is leadership, right? When one leader goes away, there is another leader. So we need to look for something else that would actually work for us and actually like stop this whole problem, right? Because this is a trend that needs to be corrected now. Moving on, right? What should we actually advocate for aside affirmative? That would be a better alternative to stop this problem at the end of the day. We feel like we should work with tightening security at the end of the day, right? Now, how does this look like, right? We feel like we should put a lot of security checking points at the borders of Mexico. One thing we have to understand with the history of Mexico is that Mexico is known for the poorest security in the world, right? Majority of drug dealers actually found in Mexico. Majority of wrongdoers actually come from Mexico to go to like different countries, right? Mexico has a very corrupt like police force. It has a very corrupt government. That is their nature. They are so corrupt, and majority of people can easily be bribed into doing everything. So the reason why we actually still have a problem with the drug cartel in Mexico is because it has poor security, and majority of people are corrupt at the end of the day. Now, what do we see? Even if we capture these drug lords, and like we haven't tightened the security, right? We're going to still see, we're going to still see different groups of people rising up to actually take on like these different drug cartels to actually improve, like we're going to see drug circulation still happening, and we're going to see different drugs still brought in by different groups of people at the end of the day. Now, this doesn't solve the problem, but it still leaves a problem, right? Yes. Moving on now, what do we do, right? When we increase the security, this drug circulation is less likely to increase. Let us give this case scenario, right? When we look at Israel, right, the only reason why drugs do not enter alone in Israel because they have a very good police force, right? It is not corrupt alone at a very good extent, and the majority of the people do not take bribes at the end of the day. Now, let's look at the United States, incidents, right? Let's look at the 9/11, right? The only reason why the 9/11 happened was because the United States didn't have good security at that particular point in time, which led to rebels enter. Now that is particularly why they increased their security, and we do not see such things happening at this particular point in time. But when we also increase our security at the borders, right? This drug circulation like stops at some particular extent, right? Till at like point where we can actually like possible, like reduce it at the end of the day. Your item.
Thank you. While you are knowing the powerful way that you earlier described by putting a lot of sanctions on them economically and even with the most powerful security, people can be harmful. That's why we are
I feel like this is a better option to do because we can easily cut the problem from its root cause. Notice that if we go and kill a leader, we still have weeds that are still growing at the end of the day, right? So when we cut a tree from its roots, it is more likely to fall down than when we cut a tree from the top. Now, this is what we exactly advocate for at the end of it. Now, we tell you that this is in the best interest of Mexico's government because A, they are saving lives of citizens, right? They are stopping like the whole drug thing, but also secondly, notice that we do not see cases of citizens die at the end of the day because they captured and like people revolted and like they wanted to get back these people. But also secondly, we feel like this is a better alternative to take because at the end of the day, we maximize utility, right? Side proposition is today because we're able to show you why this would be a very bad alternative and why our side of the house maximizes utility and solves the problem of the day. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for that speech. Pastor Prof, please now must open up their case here.
Okay, so I will be beginning in 3, 2, 1. As I said in my speech, allow me to point out two things that the first of all I'm going to do. One, they have not shown us the effects of this cartel on the great population of Mexico and the areas affected. And I'm also going to show you why the so-called security or their border security does not actually work in pieces. So first of all, I'd like to start with a little bit of rebuttal. They talked about 4 main things. 1, they talked about the deaths that are occurring. 2, they talked about the resources being used. 3, they talked about how arresting is not solve the problem, and they put a counter-resolution to border security. Allow me to start with the first thing with deaths. We believe in and of itself that deaths are actually balancing out. Why do we think this? Because we believe that the cartel are killing hundreds of people, so many people are being affected, and our attempts, yes, they are killing many people, and many people are actually suffering, but we believe that the death issue is not actually a factor in this debate because they are balancing out themselves. The cartels themselves, because of the many things they're doing, let's look at the cartel and what they're doing. Let's look at the illegal trafficking. Let's look at the money laundering. Let's look at the thousands of people who have actually fled Mexico because of these things. Look at all the lives that are being affected because of the cartels. So the justification of death is not one enough because of the evil of the cartel. Second thing they talked about is their method, border security. But the first farmer has shot herself in the leg by actually coming and first saying that the cartel has influence with big people. What does this mean? That the fact that the cartel has influence with big people, there's no assurance that even the people, the so-called people with the security, the mere fact that she actually said that most people actually support them, most people actually take in their drugs, there's no actually assurance that there will be security. Mind you that security has always been there, and we agree that cutting it from the roots is a good cause, but border security we believe does not work simply because they already came and said they have influence with big people, they have more power than the government, as they said that they have more power than the government, they have more influence than the government at times, which means that the same government which is actually going to try and influence border security can actually be ousted by this cartel. This family, the Sinaloa cartel, has a lot of influence. We must note that. And we must acknowledge the effects it has had. I'd like to take you through some of the effects of this cartel. 1, it has caused many deaths through illegal drug trafficking that has left so many drugs in the market. 2, it has engaged in so much money laundering. But what are the effects that we're going to talk about today? 1, it has really affected the towns which it has been in. Many people have died, thousands of people have fled to neighboring countries, and this has actually stagnated Mexico, and this has broken off ties and made Mexico look bad in the eyes of the public. The impact of chasing the cartel, as has been done in the past, yes, it has transferred the authority from one person to the other, but it has shown the public or the public eye that Mexico does not actually tolerate drug cartels and actually is doing everything it can to actually fight the cartels. In a scenario where you actually leave criminals to run loose, 1, you're giving an impact, or you're you're giving the public an eye that actually you're going to tolerate criminals, something which we're going to talk about as the deterrent effect. But two, you're also giving leeway to other criminals to actually gang up and actually take one, knowing that once a cartel is strong enough to actually have more power in the government, they actually control the country. So that's the leeway you're giving by actually leaving these prisoners, these criminals to go free. What is the mandate of a government? Dear, the mandate of the government, one, is to protect its people, two, promoting justice, and three, creating a safe environment for all the citizens to thrive. In the affirmative case, one, they do not promote the rule of law. Two, there is no justice for the affected families. Three, public safety will never, and I mean will never actually be guaranteed. And four, it actually shows other criminals or other gangs that crime can be tolerated for as long as they have control and for as long as they kill many people. So strategies we can have to bring up. We believe that border security in and of itself actually is ineffective. But we must also acknowledge that this cartel has grown and it has affected many people. So we believe as a counter-resolution, let's get support from bodies like the UN. Let's actually now stop using the government itself and its army security, but let's involve higher bodies actually to stop this cartel. We believe that arrests and imprisonment should continue to be done because it is the rule of law, something in my first argument. The rule of law states that the government has the responsibility to enforce law and bring lawmakers and lawbreakers to justice. It is a mandate of the government, whatever the cost, whatever the impact, to actually make sure that the streets are safe from lawbreakers. And that is something that Team Affirmative does not bring up to the actors. Before I would like to take a few words. Thank you very much. The second thing is about the deterrent effect, which I already talked about. Government has a responsibility to show that crime should and cannot be tolerated in a country. At a particular time T, when a government actually tolerates a particular crime law, simply because of the effects that it's having, it means that the government is actually giving leeway, one, for other drug lords to actually come up because there's no effect that's coming with them, but two, it's also spoiling the public image in terms of Mexico. Note that it's going to mess with the country's and the government's image toward the entire world. We must acknowledge that most of the countries in this world are actually having drugs which are illegal. So at a point when actually you accept drug laws, it means that you're giving a bad image to most of these countries that you are a drug-tolerant country. What does this mean? No more support in actually battling these drug laws, which means loss of public image, no connections, simply because you are accepting that the drug laws should remain because of the impacts they're having. The first thing I'll talk about is public safety. And government has a mandate to promote public safety. Yes, we acknowledge that the cartel has actually caused a lot of insecurity, and arresting has caused a lot of insecurity over the past few weeks, 28 to 30 to 50 days. But we must acknowledge the harms. We must weigh this from a side where the arrests and 50 to 60 days versus a side where we leave the cartels to continue. How many more people are actually going to die simply because you have left the cartels to go? How many more drugs will be in circulation simply because you are allowing the cartels to go? Yes, you are talking about catching the issue from the root, but we believe as team opposition that the method they have used to cut the tree from the root actually does not solve the problem, but we believe that elimination of all the cartels in that family will go one way better in solving the issue than their so-called border security, which can easily be manipulated by the people in power since they have influence and they actually like and have support for the cartel. Therefore, Team Affirmative have a burden to actually come back. But before, do you have any people I have to consent? Okay, Team Affirmative has a burden to come today and actually come and prove to us that one, the deaths that are currently happening because of the arrests are actually more than the deaths or the impacts that are actually coming out when we leave these criminals to go free. At a time T, when we leave criminals to go free, it is blocking public safety. Two, it is deterring justice for the affected families, something I want to talk about. You know, how many people or how many families have actually been affected with the deaths and the lives of people? So a government which actually refuses to actually engage in these drug cartels is one, putting the blood of these affected families on their hands, but also two, enabling that these families actually have cause to hate the government, to strike simply because they feel the government is not doing enough to protect their citizens, protect their interests, and actually bring the criminals, the people who are bringing their harm to justice. The impact on the government, our actor, is that it's going to present a bad image of the government to two people. one, to the entire city, to the entire population, but two, to also governments who are actually willing to support them simply because they know they are drug-tolerant country. Therefore, I would like to rest my case by saying that we should not stop pursuing El Chapo's sons.
Alright. Thank you for that speech, Pastor Opposition. Speaker, let's have the second. Folks, speaker to extend their guest here.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2. So the motion is this House as the Mexico government will stop pursuing El Chapo's sons. So first, this debate narrows down to one thing. How are we going to defend ourselves from this big cartel that is actually affecting the country, Mexico? And yes, we have already shown it has like a lot of influence, not only in Mexico, but also in other parts of the world. So how are we going to defend ourselves better? We as side opposition are actually showing that we're going to defend ourselves by actually starting from the root, trying to make our government systems actually better, removing like those leaders that actually connected. Because as we have told you, this cartel has a lot of influence. Maybe they do have influence with the government officials, the security, the police. So first of all, we as the government are going to start from the root, because we cannot try to maybe get help, yet we in our home are still having problems, because at the end of the day, whatever help is going to be provided to us is actually not going to help us, since we have loopholes in our own government. So that's what we're mainly going to look at. Your side actually just wants to maybe remove. You want to show that yes, we do not stand with, we do not support these drug cartels by pursuing El Chapo's sons. But I'm going to show you how that is actually problematic. So for their side, they come and tell us they want to give the public an eye that they are not fine with actually having drug cartels in the country. How? By pursuing these El Chapo's sons. What we actually told you is that when you're going to pursue El Chapo's sons, the problem is that the thing is, we already showed it has a lot of influence. So at the end of the day, yes, you're getting El Chapo's sons, but then that does not show you that is no guarantee that this whole cartel is actually going to stop thriving just by removing El Chapo's sons. Yeah, so that's what we are mainly still going to show you. Then they come and tell us how they're going to support you. That's where you can see that yes, for example, we as a government cannot actually continue, we cannot actually pursue El Chapo's sons alone, we still need help. That's fine. But then again, we as side proposition showing that the Mexican government has a problem, not because that they do not have the money, not because they do not have the resources, but they themselves, the individuals in the government, have a problem. As again, I told you, a lot of influence, so we actually feel like there's still influence in the government and there's still influence, for example, yes, in the police. And so whatever you want to bring up, for example, even though you get the money to stop this, to pursue this El Chapo's sons, at the end of the day, you're still going to not achieve anything, because at the end of the day, the government still has people that actually support these El Chapo's sons. And then again, they talk about public safety. Many people, yes, are dying due to these cartels and all that. Yes, we understand that that is a problem, but then how are we going to defend ourselves? We as side proposition decide that yes, we are going to try to defend ourselves, even though there are going to be problems and all that. But at the end of the day, we are going to eradicate this whole cartel, which does not happen in your side, because you're going to just be having continuous wars since you just remove the head and not actually tackle the root. So back to our case. As I told you, self-defense. So how are we going to do this on our side of the world? We are going to go back to the government systems. We are going to go back to the security systems and actually try to make things better. Like, for example, as we are doing, maybe there is some form of corruption. Maybe the leaders in the government actually work with these people in the cartels. Or, for example, yes, the security people, as we are doing, so you're going to try to tighten security. You're going to try to find out how are these people actually connected. And we try to get the right people to put in these positions. We're not going to, like, for example, how can, and let me say, for example, my friend is Rama and they're trying to find ways of how to remove Rama. Like, I'm discussing with you people, you understand? Do you think that would be possible? At the end of that day, I'm still going to try to advise her and show her how she can actually
avoid this attack. So here, what we are showing you is we're going to go back down to the roots, go to the government, and try to find ways how we are going to make sure that the people in the government are the right people and not corrupt people that are actually connected to the cartels, and also tighten the security. When we talk about security, let's look at Mexico, for example. Mexico, it's very easy, for example, to get firearms. Like any individual, maybe as long as you're over the age, you can still get a firearm. There is no tight security. Like, for example, you cannot just get a firearm. So what is our impact of this? At the end of the day, when this, for example, when this cartel is actually attacked, or for example, one of the circumstances, arrested, you're going to find that the citizens themselves, or yes, these people that actually work in these cartels, fighting the police. Why do you think the fighting of the police is actually there? That means the government has already failed, but because at the end of the day, how come these people actually fighting? We have showed you that these drugs are actually problematic and they actually affect your health. But then why are you fighting us? Because yes, you're giving them the resources, they actually feel like, yo, I have an AK-47, the police has an AK-47, so why should they try fighting? You understand? We do not have like any kind of respect to the police and all that. So at a point we need to tackle this and maybe try to tighten the security, as we had already given you an example of Israel, which does not have such cases like of drugs and all that. So we are going to tighten the security, and at the end of the day, we are going to make sure that we have made sure that environment to actually come and stop this whole drug cartel is actually suitable. Because at the end of the day, how would you stop something that you not yet the environment around is actually still encouraging this thing to carry on? So yeah, back to that debate. To the problem of the debate, I've told you it's still drug distribution. At the end of the day, we want to stop drug distribution and also the effects that come with it, the way it affects health, and also turns people into nuisances, and also maybe having, at the end of the day, having more crime, more criminals in the country. That is the problem we want to solve. And so in this debate, we're mainly finding out how we are going to do it, and we've showed you. We're mainly going to try to work on the environment, go back to the roots, tighten the security. When you tighten the security, this will be harder for these drug cartels to actually keep on reaching out to different people, selling their drugs to different people and all that. So that's how we actually eradicate that drug distribution. So at the end of the day, yes, they have the influence, but we have cut off the influence between the government and also this whole drug cartel. And at the end of the day, we have given them a good environment for them to actually stop this whole thing. So what happens after doing all this? When we start by the roots, cutting off the distribution, making distribution very hard, this is not going to make it profitable for these drug cartels, and that actually reduces their power, which at the end of the day makes it easy to actually remove this whole, to actually attack the heads, for example, still. So also then the outcome, we are going to see that like the outcome of this, we are going to actually stop this drug distribution, since at the end of the day we have removed the sense and we have also cut off the distribution always on how this drug cartel will still rise. So with this, let's start with the house that actually shows you how we are going to make a clear environment for these people to actually stop this whole drug distribution. Then a site that only attacks the head and does not look that the governments themselves that are seeking the help actually not that suitable one for this help.
All right, thank you. Second proposition speaker, let's have the second hope speaker to extend Hope's guest here.
Thank you. The time will be starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You cut a tree from the root and it doesn't grow. You cut a weed from the root, it will regrow. Today's report, we are first going to look at the best of increased security, then we are going to explore argumentation. Firstly, increased security. They believe that if they have a high level of security at the border, eventually you're going to stop drugs from coming into the country. Notice, they already characterize the men as corrupt. That means if you stop their business, what's going to stop them from retaliating the same exact way they did when you took away their brother, seeing as you've already proved that it works? That's leverage. You're going to talk about it. Secondly, criminals in society are harmful. You don't try to stab out their business to get them out. That's why prisons were invented in the first place, and that's how I'm going to further address today. Let's look at the argumentation. 2 new words you're going to learn. Leverage mandate. Firstly, leverage. Future leverage used by drug cartels. When you prove something works, it's bound to be reused again. When you're sure that if you cause a level of massive damage, it will work, nothing is going to stop these drug cartels from doing it again. As has been already proved, they're not the most humane people on the planet. So, other drug families and gangs, even from other parts of the world, are automatically going to take advantage of this opportunity and use it as long as they can get the same result, which they believe they will. They will cause excessive levels of massive damage to scare governments into retaliating to their cause. And that is the most dangerous thing that's going to happen. You cannot make deals with the devil because you do not know how to stop him. The second thing is mandate. It is a mandate of the government to secure the people, yes. It is a mandate of them to follow a rule of law. Why is this particularly important in today's debate? When the government does not follow specific mandates, hello, Cindy. When the government does not follow particular mandates, it can affect the rest of the economy. What do I mean? It's going to cut across other sectors of Mexico's government. If by destroying their public relations and looking like a drug-tolerant country, you're going to find it harder for them to make peace treaties with other countries. Say the United Nations is not comfortable with drugs. They wonder, why are you not fighting drugs? So it's going to be harder for you to be able to join particular organizational bodies because you've been seen as drug tolerant. Now, the major problem in today's debate is what can we do to make it work, since both arguments have literally, well, our side has actually failed in the past. How do we develop that so that it can work? Theirs has already failed. Our previous technique used was working with Mexican security, and we feel like they were not strong enough. But I asked the question in the first speaker's why aren't they fighting for their father? Why aren't they causing damage to reattack their father? I feel like in today's debate, the reason they are not doing that is because of the difference in, can I say parameter, difference in area. Their father is in the United States. The work was done by the United States to extradite them. What does this mean? We believe that because of the cause of massive damage, we can get help from the United States or the United Nations to come, get these brothers out and take them there. No matter how much damage they cause in Mexico to these people, they will not be able to reattend the father because it's out of the Mexican government's jurisdiction. So, because of those reasons, we believe on our side of the house, we are keeping the people of Mexico safe. So, we have to explore the effects of cartels. Cartels have things like money laundering, they have debt, and they have drug use. Yes, we understand. And we know on our side some people might die, but we feel like the drug use that they cause kills eventually more people than the amount of police officers you can talk about in today's debate. So, what does our side have to prove? Two things. One, that drug use on our side is reduced, and secondly, that the danger to the people is reduced. I'm going to start with danger to the people. How are we reducing danger to the people? We are working in a way to extract the people who are causing the danger in today's debate. We are eradicating people who cause danger. By doing that, we are keeping a more peaceful society rather than attempting to suffocate them on their side of the debate, which is obviously going to cause backlash and retaliation. On our side of the debate, we are actually causing peace. But secondly, we are reducing drug use by removing the people who cause the drugs. What they are doing is trying to eliminate drugs entering the country. But I feel as though that still again won't happen because the police officers, as they characterize, are corrupt. Is there a POI? All right. What's the main summary of today's debate? You cut a tree from the root, not a weed. You do not make deals with the devil. When you work in a way when you work in a way to remove somebody, you have to ensure that they won't have continuation. The argument that they had to this was basically that there are other people who are going to restart the Mexican cartel business. And we do see that there's a chance that somebody may start it up. But what are the odds of you starting a Mexican drug business when the most powerful family is currently in prison, from the father to all the 6 sons? It kind of removes the initiative to go into it because you know the basic end result is that you're going to get arrested or murdered or dead. You know that at the end of the end, you're not going to get what you want in regards to this debate. So what do we feel as a side? We feel as though their plan of increased security is forever going to remain within this debate. And we offer you 2 lengths of argumentation. Firstly, working on the mandate of government, especially in regards to the rule of law, and secondly, working on the leverage. Leverage in that there was high damage cause, and we can see this is going to cause a level of damage to the citizenry, but we believe in the long run, our model is going to be far better because it's going to produce higher levels of safety for the people. Damage for say a year,
It's going to reduce damage that people are going through 10 years. What do I mean by that? Repetitive action. If you tell somebody that what you do works, they're going to do it again. In our model, even if these other 10 years of life are going to be 100% safe because we remove the danger, in their model, these 10 years are going to be dangerous because anytime you do anything to attack the cartel business on their side of the debate, the result is going to be massive destruction. They'll bomb aeroplanes, they'll bomb buses, they're going to put laws governing the restrictions, they're going to try to attack them at the farms where they make drugs. What are they going to do? They're going to ban people's buildings because they know previously, you know what? It worked. It worked. And because something worked, it's going to be reattempted again and again. There are 30 seconds left over 30 seconds. Is there POI? No. A second thing is the leverage. Leverage is what I've explained about this debate. And really, that's mostly it. The only thing left is exploring the impact analysis. Impact on our side is that the government, first of all, gets a better image. Better image means better public relations and again, better international relations. When you have a better image, you build yourself. Now, we understand a lot of this credit is going to go to the United States, yes, but the government is far better off in our state because they're not going to be viewed as the drug tolerant. So on our side of the debate, we win in that case. But secondly, the people, how do the people benefit? The people benefit by a reduced drug use in their society, and secondly, the people benefit by a reduced death rate in their country. We are removing the threats, thus the people are safer. That means they're going to be happier in society. They're going to be more productive. There are people who are afraid to go to work because of drug issues. What does this mean? We are working on a system of economy that's more profitable for the government in the long run. Secondly, what are we doing in this debate for the people? We are generally keeping them in a law-abiding state. They are not going to go into selling drugs. A 16-year-old boy is not going to go into selling drugs, knowing clearly well that the most powerful drug dealers in the whole country went to jail. What do we learn from this debate? We are keeping the people in the safest possible system they can be, as well as helping them self-actualize in other more hopeful results. What's the conclusion of our side panel? When something works, it's going to be redone. We do not accept defeat to the devil. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech, second pop speaker, and then let's welcome the bad pop speaker. You can pick the beat. You can pick it. My serious thing. Just a little bit.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. This house, as the Mexico government, will stop pursuing El Chapo's son. And we told you that El Chapo is the biggest drug cartel in the whole world. And what brings us today is, as the Mexican government, they also pointed this out, we have tried to fight them ourselves, but we have still failed. We brought you a history where one of them was captured, but the ruckus that was there in the 24 hours of this person was in custody was very bad. One, we saw lives of very many being lost. We saw damage of property. Roads were blocked. Police property was destroyed. Army property was destroyed just because of one person. And now here we are with an opposition that wants to actually arrest all the sons of this person. So one of the major things they talk about, they come and tell us, you know what? Their father was in prison. But these people have not fought for their father. Now, I want to inform you that their father was imprisoned in the US, and by then he was in the US. Now we are comparing two governments, the US government and the Mexican government. The Mexican government does not have the same police force like the US government. If these sons were actually in the US, probably they would actually also be arrested and would be effective. But now we as the Mexican government has been said in the first speech, we do not have the capacity to actually pursue these people and stop jungle.
Put all the information.
Take it. Now, what do they say? You know what these people are talking about, death, we are killing people and all that. But then we tell them that, they tell us that cartels are killing people. How are they killing people? Through the usage of drugs, through trafficking and all that. But at the end of the day, we tell you, we told you Mexico has the worst security system in the whole world. And that is why the first thing we are going to do is to tighten our security. How are we going to tighten our security? We told you when you look at countries like USA, where, for example, the 9/11 incidents happened, they had very bad security at that time. But when they improved their security, we've not had incidents of such happening again. We borrow an example from Israel, where they have the best police system, the best security, that even when a criminal enters the country, they cannot even go against the police or army forces in the country. Now, those are ideas that we want to borrow and bring them to actually our government, our world. So, what do they come and tell us? They come and tell us that, you know what, the effects of the cartel, what are the effects? They come and tell us the effects of the cartel on the ongoing population, and what do they bring? They say there is death, affection, they have affected different towns. Now, when you look at this particular cartel, it does not only have influence in Mexico alone, it has influence in different parts of the world. Now, as the Mexican state, as the Mexican government, we feel like we have tried to actually put these people down, but we have failed. That is why we say we are not going to take this on ourselves. Now, you are the Mexican government, and in their case, they want actually to get foreign assistance. So how are you going to expect foreigners to actually assist you, foreigners to help you, if you cannot solve an issue from the grassroots? Your country, if you cannot help your security to actually level up to the best standards of ensuring that there's proper security in your country, how are you going to expect powers for more security from other countries to actually be of help to you? They say they have a bad image. Well, even seeking for help for something that has failed, you're going to be helped, but you will show no room that you have actually done something about it. Because now, when they come, what security are they going to work with? Are you going to render them your incompetent security to work with? She gave you an example in her speech where she said a criminal has an AK-47 and a policeman also has an AK-47. We are all equal, we have the same power, so we can easily fight. Now, we are going to take away those arms from these people. We are going to find a way of making sure that these arms are not just there for exposure for these people to have so that they can actually fight us. They say, you know what these people are looking at is just a one-day effect, whereby for us, within 10 years, you know, when we capture these people, the impact is only going to be there for a short time. But then after the long run, when we have kept on imprisoning these people, we shall not have these people anymore. But now let's understand, if we choose to capture these people, in just 24 hours, lots of lives were lost, a lot of property was destroyed. Now, if we go again and we capture apparently because we have shown these people that, you know what, you can actually do something and it will work out, they are going to go ahead and actually keep on, because we have not put a stop on them on how they can actually fight us. We have left them with their arms, we have not tightened the security, so they will definitely fight as they also fight us. So they do not so that they come and tell us, you know what, the government gets a better image.
Point of information.
How does the government get a better image in this case? Because they have, apparently they say you have shown the world that you actually accept crime. But this is a government that is actually analyzing the things that it has done so that it does better. It has shown you, we do not agree to this crime. We have tried to arrest these people. They say the role of the government is to ensure safety of the people. But how are we going to ensure safety of the people if we are trying to deter crime by killing these people? Are you wanting to kill the people you're trying to protect? So there's some sort of confusion. You want to protect the people, but then you're putting the people's lives at risk, apparently, because you want to stop drugs. So what is the effect of the cartel on the population? We have told you, these people have big influence. It is the biggest drug cartel in the whole world. So as the Mexican government, we have tried efforts, we have pursued these people, we have failed. We have not said we are not backing down on the issue of actually bringing down the usage of drugs. But we are saying we are going for a better alternative to see why are we tightening security? so that we monitor what vehicles are entering the state, what are they carrying, and we are keeping on track. And who is going to do that? The security officers that we are actually going to ask to, you know what, go back to training. We are going to ensure that these people are actually on the same course as we are. So literally everything they say does not hold. They come and tell us that we tell them that because these people have power and influence, even when we capture the sons, because they say that capturing the sons is going to bring an image whereby other people will be influenced and all that. But we are trying to show you that when we capture these sons, we still have a long road. They say that apparently you don't cut the whole tree, you actually cut a wing. But when you cut the wing, it is going to regrow. And the same way is going to happen, meaning what you're trying to find is actually going to come back. Why are we cutting it from the roots? We are taking it from the roots because when we first of all deal with these people that are being influenced, that is the public, and then in one way or another, these people are going to lose market because these people are going to become less interested in their product. And at the end of the day, we shall see that people are protected, just like we talked about. We shall see that there is safety. We shall see that there is increase in security. And at the end of the day, drug usage will come to an end. I've never been prouder than you.
It's a good decision. Let's give back. Anyways, thank you, Prof, for that speech. It's I hope she'll extend that. Yes, again.
My time is going to be starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Said affirmative claims they've reached a point where they can allow crime in their country. They've reached a point whereby they believe their enemy is so great they can tolerate them just a little bit longer. Not just a little bit longer, actually, because I'm going to prove in the long run that crime is going to succeed. What's the most important thing they say in today's debate? Security. When you improve security in a particular area, you're going to aid them. Now, they concede that their security system is corrupt. That means they want to rearrange the entire security structure. They want to get rid of all the men in power, practically, because they do not know who's corrupt, and replace them. At that stage, you are compromising your country's entire security scheme. That means everyone can succeed, from rapists to murderers to thieves, because they've not given us a proper analogy as to how they're going to completely improve the country's security. They go forward to say they're going to improve border security, but we believe the same thing applies. You can't remove all the border people in one day and replace them. What does this mean? Corruption is practically everywhere. How have other countries with corruption managed to go through this problem? That's what we're going to explain in this debate. Secondly, in increased security, once again, they believe that they can starve these people with their goods. You do not starve, you do not back a dangerous person between a rock and a hard place when they have a method to retaliate. What is their method to retaliate? A method that has worked. This is their leverage in today's debate. Their leverage is the fact that they know, as long as I ban a few buses, I'm going to get what I want. What does this mean? The most powerful drug cartel in the world has more power than a government. They have more power than the Mexican government. I know I can get the Mexican government to do particular things I want because I have leverage, I have strength, I have the fact that I'm going to bomb 3 buses. This data is something that we as a side believe should just be completely removed and not tolerated in today's debate. So what's their other line of rebuttal? That Mexico has the lowest security in the world, and their father was imprisoned in the United States. This is arguing against our territory premise, basically. Mexico having the lowest security in the world, we feel, is a lie. It does not. It does not have the lowest security in the world. Mexico doesn't even have the highest crime rate in the world. In today's event, what we are seeing is the reason their father has not been fought for is because they can't fight the Mexican government to receive what the Mexican government cannot give. You cannot give in money to somebody who will not give you something in return. That means they won't fight the Mexican government when they know the Mexican government is not going to provide their father in exchange. This means that if the United States government takes away the sons, they will not fight the Mexican government because the Mexican government cannot return the sons back to the people. The sons are all the way in the United States under a different territory. The third thing in today's debate is the fact that the cartel is the largest in the world. The third speaker really contradicted herself when she said this is a cartel with influence over the world. why would people help Mexico fight it? You see, if the drug cartel has had influence over the world, that means this has been elevated to a global issue. This is obviously going to offer stance for the United Nations to be able to step in. That means it does not even matter how much effort Mexico has put in. It does not matter if people feel as though Mexico has put in all the effort on the planet. By the mere fact that it has become a world problem, everybody is going to be involved in said struggle because they know they are a national issue. So literally, our case still stands in all given aspects. The last thing in today's debate is literally the equality between, well, the mob gangs, the cartels, and the police. And they are all saying, how do you fight an AK-47 with an AK-47? What are we telling you? We are not fighting an AK-47 with an AK-47. We are bringing tanks to fight AK-47. We are bringing the United States military, the military that can be imperialistic all over the world, fight in Afghanistan, guard Antarctica, and still help other people in given peace treaties. It is used in NATO. It's used in the United Nations. What does this mean? This is a large army. It can fight these AK-47s. On these grounds, I already believe we have won, but I'm still going to continue. What is their best case scenario? Their best case scenario is that if they work, like their best case, is that they have to improve security as Mexico to ensure drugs do not enter the country, and hopefully the drug users are going to find better ways to spend their money. El Capone's sons are going to maybe go into farming and medicine and carpentry. And this is what we are saying. If somebody has already involved themselves in a level of crime, they're going to continue in it for eternity. They're going to find ways to outsmart you. You put border restrictions, they corrupted the soldiers. You went forward to have guns, they got themselves the very same guns. What is the end result, ladies and gentlemen? You don't play with fire. You don't play with the devil. You kill him. So, the major world comparison in today's debate. Which world are you going to live in? A tolerant world whereby you're willing to work with crime, whether you're willing to repeat the same mistakes that have failed in the past, such as trying to slowly improve your economy? Are you going to work in a world whereby you're living murderous killers on the loose? Are you going to accept to live in a world whereby the entire security structure is being rearranged? Or are you going to further develop yourself to a world whereby somebody large comes in and helps you and takes care of the matter completely? Are you going to live in a world where the government can compromise the rule of law? Are you going to live in a world where the government cannot follow its mandate because it feels a few buses are going to get bombed? This is not the case in today's debate. We feel as though in our world the reason we stand strong is because we are the safest world as citizens we want to live in. A safest world whereby someone's crime is completely removed. We, first of all, do not believe in the case of retaliation, as I have explained in this debate. Their main problem is retaliation from the sons. But we have stated in our world, in comparison, as much as they keep the sons alive in theirs, basically, the sons alive in theirs, the sons, according to them, are alive in ours, we feel that you cancel out completely. But we go an extra mile to prove that in our world, we can cancel out the sons by putting them in a different territory, which is the United States of America. So what's the conclusive impact analysis in today's debate? We believe that the impact of our case only stands if you can erase the effects of cartels. That is 3. Money laundering, death, drug use. This death is in regards to say the Fights and Their Violence Acts. And we feel like as long as we can prove that we can control this, we win. How do we solve the problem? We solve the problem with money laundering because we remove the criminals. We solve the problem of death because we remove the criminals. Drug use because we remove the criminals. Things that can't happen in this world. Our solution may sound abrupt and immediate, and theirs may sound like something that's slowly filtering out the crime, but we feel like in that slow filter, there's going to be so many loopholes for the cartel to outsmart the policemen and even develop the stronger system. Which is why in the conclusion of today's debate, we completely believe our side as one, creating a more peaceful state. How am I going to conclude this debate? At what limit do you allow crime to exist in your country? At what limit do you finally say no? Do you finally accept the murderous damage caused by El Capone's sons? Do you finally accept that you cannot fight? When do you finally admit you have lost? That is the primary question of today's debate. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech. Let's
we beginning in three?
Just hold it. Oh, no, no, no.
I'll be beginning the reply in 3, 2, 1. This debate has come down to so many contradictions, so many clashes that I'll just highlight in a few of them. The first thing the affirmatives have failed in this debate is the mere fact that they do not even get a proper problem analysis. They have jumped from one problem to the other, and the fact that one model failed, they jump to the other, and the fact that the other model failed, they jump to another. And we have constantly proven time and time again that all their models failed. First of all, they talked about border security, but we showed you the interest that actually, because the cartel actually has strong influence, their border security does not work. Then they brought the problem of clearing out the poor governments. But also in the instance that you told us that the cartel influences the whole world, we believe that poor governments will remain simply because the cartel has more power than the government, something that has been acknowledged in this debate. We have not to get whether their problem, first of all, whether their solution is on the government or whether it is on security. Because both things I believe the cartels actually are stronger than. Third thing is the rule of law, something that the team affirmative has not tackled throughout the debate and it has not been engaged. We came and clearly stated that government has a mandate of the rule of law to make sure all its citizens are protected and to make sure all people are brought to justice, whether or not it causes havoc or whether or not, just to make sure that justice is prevailing, something that has not been engaged. The other thing that has not been engaged is the deterrent effect. The effect that when one criminal actually leaves, it's actually encouraging others to come up and make the same errors and make the same crimes. That has also not been touched. I would like to touch about the model clash, because we have had a clash in models. One side advocates for a bigger, larger body coming and influencing and actually enabling us to get the end result. They believe, and we have all reached a consensus, that the Mexican government does not have the capability of actually solving these issues. So what can we best do to enable utility of the people? We come and say, since the Mexican government does not have the ability, let's bring a higher body. Since they come and they jump it as a global issue, since it affects the whole world, let's bring a body which is big enough to actually intervene and help solve the problem. But I'll bring you to a little bit of the problem analysis, which I brought up in the first speech, which is the rampant drug supply. We believe in and of itself they have failed to analyze the problem analysis because one, removing the bad governance does not actually stop the supply of drugs simply because the criminals are still there. And two, also eliminating border security does not stop entirely the supply of drugs simply because one, the criminals remain there, but two, even when you tighten border security, since these people will find other means actually to enable their drugs to continue being sold, since you already said they have enough influence throughout the world. So we believe at a point T, whereby we have a world where we're trying to cut off all the suppliers of these drugs and enable a total intra-cartel versus a world which is willing to be tolerant, lenient, and able to tolerate with criminals, just such that they will not bomb 2 or 3 buses. We believe our world is far better and actually obtains total utility. But finally, we are looking at who best achieves utility in this world. There are 2 issues. One, safety of the people. 2, reduction in drugs. And we believe both of these things are highly tackled very well by team opposition. We said the safety of the people will be assured when each and every one of these criminals is removed, arrested from the society. And we also show you how there will be reduction in the drugs when you actually remove the heads of these things. So we believe at a particular time when we are proving that the safety of the people is guaranteed, unlike these people because the cartel people are remaining there, and at a time when the drugs are actually being reduced because of the elimination of the cartels, we believe that we actually have a firm stance to say that we have actually taken and won this debate. With that, I would like to beg to submit.
Thank you for that speak of reply. Let's have reply to end their case and close the debate here.
So, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Self-defense is justified even when you are about to fail. This is why governments would want to actually carry this out, right? They would want to stop cartels. Now, this is an argument that came from the first speech, that it wasn't tackled as I was. What do we tell you, right? We understand that cartels have a lot of influence, as we said in our characterization, but we still come and tell you that due to the government's obligation and like the pressure they get from different bodies, they would still be enticed to come and stop like these different drug cartels at the end of the day. But then the question comes down to how are we going to stop these drug cartels? Now, this is why we get two modules, right? We get the first module from the other side of the house. They tell us that they would want to kill El Chapo's sons, right? And I will show you that even when you kill them, even when you arrest them, the trend still continues of drug abusers. And at the end of the day, we do not stop the whole drug thing. But secondly, we also show you how it doesn't work out and how we do not stop anything at the end of the day. But also thirdly, they come and tell us that, oh, we shall get the United States to come and work and they come and help us. But notice how they do not give us any justification on why the United States will actually want to do this, right? Panel, this argument doesn't serve any debate today. Moving on, what do we tell you from our side of the house, right? We come and tell you that we are going to improve security, right? And we come and show you two case scenarios, right? We show you the reason why Mexico, actually we still have drugs in Mexico, is because we do not have security, right? On the borders, right? This is why we clearly show you that basically if we have security, drugs stop entering at the end of the day, right? This weekend, these cartels at the end of the day, because they do not have supply for drugs. Now, when they don't have this supply, they cannot gain any income, right? These are arguments that come from first, second, and third speech, and they are not quoted at the end of the day. But also moving on finally, what do we tell you? So what do we get from the other side of the house as far as this debate today? First of all, they assume that we do not remove drugs at the end of the day. But this is a clear analysis that came from the first speech, and it was not tackled. Secondly, they assume that cartels don't go away on our side of the house. But this was literally tackled when we showed you that when we remove the supply of drugs, these cartels will not stand at the end of the day because they have nothing to actually touch. Finally, they don't give us any justification on why the United States or anything would actually want to help them. And finally, they try to weigh the rule of law against the many lives that were lost. Panel, we tell you from first speech that we are supposed to be protecting lives as the government of Mexico, right? We come and tell you from first speech that the social contract theory obligates like these different governments to actually protect citizens. So rule of law does not exist here. If people actually die at the end of the day, we have to weigh these principles up, and we feel like life is actually the better principle to take at the end of the day. Now, what do we bring to you in this debate today, right? We bring to you three major parts of our cases, right? A, we show you why the outcome of like the capturing of these people. Secondly, we show you the capacity to actually capture them, and thirdly, we show you why our side actually has no utility for like the different Mexican governments. Now, under the outcome of capturing, right, we show you the different lives that were lost at that particular point in time, and why we should actually uphold these lives at the end of the day. We also show you secondly the backlash that actually comes out at the end of the day, which doesn't solve any problem and doesn't solve like this whole drug cartels at the end of the day. Secondly, we show you the capacity to actually capture like these different drug lords, where we show you that the only reason why you would actually want to capture them is to stop drug cartels or like is to stop the circulation of drugs. Now, this is not fulfilled because at the end of the day, we show you how he was still released because there were things that were happening at the end of the day. So like this doesn't stand here, but also finally we show you the utility that we gain, how we stop like drug cartels and how like the Mexican government solves like its role, right? Kind of in nowhere in our characterization did we say that these guys have influence over the government, right? We say they are loved by people and they have a lot of influence, right? But this doesn't mean that they have more influence than the president, right? We come and tell you that they are the largest in the world, but it doesn't mean that they take over the whole world, right? Panel,
Okay, thank you for that amazing debate. This has been the end of round 7. Shake hands, go, chill, refreshing. It's a close round. Yeah. No, there's not another round. Go!